Okay, I think you can go back to the slide.
Yeah, that's me.
Yep, it's set up.
Was a little worried about and then here's Charlotte on it. You have to get a bigger, she was all mad, right? How did she do it? Really well. Yeah, you do like that? Yeah, okay. Took all the screens off the windows, took the curtains out. I went to that one, do stuff with it.
She's gonna make her own
Oh,
books.
yeah.
That's
Not
nice.
right.
Yeah, should I?
So next day, I'm
Okay.
What to do, the Fisherman's Farm this weekend.
Oh.
And we're gone 2 nights and we might have to put it out with the tar. Okay. Yeah, I did.
That's what we need to do.
It's astonishing. The hot water. What that did, well, because Jim was asking, you know, like all last week, questions about how do you accelerate AU, kind of and whether we, I mean, they have to use. It's a lot. I know. It's a ton.
I tried to pull it up on my phone, it just doesn't.
But I'm wondering if it's something.
That's the right side.
Because there are a lot of people that have like party control basements, not basements. I think it would be great if they would do like a squat, you know, like wider and shorter, because they make those in regular water heaters so that they can go close like this and that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
I put it in a new one.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like the old town meeting, you know, you got close to each other.
Yeah. Yeah, he suggested, because he was down himself. He was like, one year is now leaking. Yeah, like this, he was replacing that. And he suggested doing a heat pump. Because this, you know, this energy credit.
I don't know, they were having problems too.
He gets, when he buys it, right off the
That's how
price.
it is.
But I never expected it to drop at that much.
You got it?
I actually
working?
put a heat pump.
It's on like I don't know if it's going over YouTube.
And it was gonna be so dependent that I was just looking into options. And they have LG, they said it was static. Yeah, and it does great. It takes the moisture out of the So it really uses a lot of heat to dry clothes. And then it goes down, process and goes into
I'll get back to you tomorrow.
That's great.
Hi.
Another big day tomorrow.
That's
Oh,
probably.
yeah. We hope. I'm not counting my chickens until the bridge is burning.
Yeah. It has something else to do with it. I didn't either.
Quarter to 9.
She's back and I don't really know the person's how I have it. She's in six. Yeah, because I said, right. Yeah.
All right, I'd like to go ahead and call the meeting to order. Are we live, Chris?
No, we're not. I mean, it's not coming through.
Okay, well,
It's broadcasting, so.
okay. Do you know how to make it record, Chris? Okay. Anybody here who does, so, unless you do.
I thought I did.
Okay. So we'll go ahead with what we have. Sounds like we're broadcasting but not recording. I'd like to call the public meeting to order. Simple, short meeting, and then we'll go into the budget workshop right after that. Item 25-018 under regular business is to review and authorize the town administrator to sign the contract with GEI Consultants and take any necessary action. Comments from the board, David?
May I make a motion to that effect?
Sure. That'd be great.
I make
So
a
that-
motion to that effect.
Okay, and second by Liza. Discussion? I'd like to bring up one thing. I've been sharing information as one of the two representatives for the golf course and also as one of the two representatives for the Stone Pier with Will Lund of the Homebaum family. And just giving him copies of everything that's going to be in packets, just so he's on top of things. We made a mistake not keeping him up to date early last fall. And, so trying to do the right thing with all that. He did see the contract, and he noted that in the contract they referred to some, but not all of the restrictions in the agreement that was signed between the town and the Homebaums 7 years ago, 8 years ago, whenever it was. That contract, according to our lawyer, is still in full force and effect. But I think it would be a gesture of good faith if we included in this motion some reference to the Homebaum memo as well, in terms of this board's commitment to honoring that memo. Carol?
So when we did the memo that explained what, or that outlined what the
design criteria was, didn't we reference that memo?
We did, I believe, in the design criteria, and they got a copy of that, but that's not the contract that we're voting on tonight, and it's not referenced in their contract. The number of parking spaces is referenced in the contract. A few other elements are, but there are several elements that are in the agreement that are not referenced in the contract.
Yeah, so I think I would suggest we incorporate the design criteria as a whole, and we can add the home agreement to that as an attachment to the contract.
So David, would you entertain a friendly amendment to your motion?
I would, as outlined.
I need to have that.
So the amendment to the motion would read something like, attached to the contract will be the design criteria that the town of Chebeague submitted to GEI, and also the memo, the agreement that was signed between the Homebombs and the town of Chebeague Island
In 2015.
in 2015. Does that work for you too as second?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, discussion?
Well, not on that, but just to point out that, so we have a grant from Maine DOT for this, a matching grant. So the grant is up to 75,000. So this estimate for this was 90-something. So basically, we pay half of that. The way I understand it from DOT, if the cost is 100,000, we pay 50. If the cost is 150, we pay 75. So I'm just saying we still have some capacity in our match. If there's another phase that happens, we could potentially use that. We didn't, the previous consultant was at 150. That was their estimate for the project, so these guys came in quite a bit lower. So we can see how it goes. We may want to share that information with them a little further down the track, because I can't remember what the term of the contract is, but it might end in this fiscal, this calendar year.
Yeah.
So just pointing out that we haven't maxed out our available match.
Right. And does this motion need to include where the money's coming from?
Probably should.
Yeah. So, friendly amendment, something to the effect of, to be funded by the grant with a 50% match by Chebeague, and the Chebeague match would come from the Stone Pier Fund?
Yeah.
That work for the second as well?
Yeah.
Any more discussion? Motion. And, go ahead, Liza.
So with the balance that's still available, that is only for design, is that correct?
Yes. That is correct.
And if there is more design needed, do we have a timeline for that?
I think that there will be another step beyond this, but I don't know. This timeline, it was in the proposal. It's on the order of 6 months.
Yeah. So as we get toward the end of the 30% design, I think what is being said is that we could expand from 30% to further into the actual design build or whatever approach we decide to take, and utilize more of that grant funding matched with more money from, but for now, all we're voting on is the contractual amount in the GEI contract.
Okay, and last question, any inkling on if this funding is secure from DOT?
Which funding is, the grant we're talking about?
Yeah, we should have somebody check that before we actually, we should check that. I did on the other grant we did last week, but I have not checked on this one.
So we'll make a note afterwards that the town administrator or her designee should follow up with the DOT before she signs the contract.
Thank you.
Yeah, good catch in these days. So before we vote, any comments from the public, questions regarding the motion on the floor? All right, seeing none, there's a motion on the floor, it's been seconded. All in favor? Unanimous. And Chris, if you could make a note for Vika to follow up with the DOT to make sure that grant money is still available before she signs the contract with GEI. Make sense? All right, With that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn the regular meeting and enter the workshop.
So moved.
Motion by Eliza, second by David, all in favor? Okay, now we're in the budget workshop. Welcome, everybody. Boy, no idea how to go first here. We've got, looks like every non-profit except Life Flight and maybe Visiting Nurse is represented. So the order that they were on the town web sheet for the work that we did in advance starts with the community center, so we could start with that. Is anyone here to, Lynn speaking? Okay, so I would ask that each nonprofit who chooses to make a presentation, we appreciate all the material that's been sent and we've all had time to look at it. I would appreciate if you could keep your comments to 3 minutes so that we can get through these relatively promptly. You don't need to go through the entire proposal.
No problem, Mike.
Okay, so
I could probably say this more than that.
Lynn, if you could step up to the owl, please. We keep saying we're going to get a piece of tape over there to mark where people should stand, but we haven't done it yet.
Where do you actually live?
Right in front of David, 6 or 8 feet.
I do this.
You have to be over this way to get the camera.
Right in front, yeah, right in front of you.
This used to be,
I
It
know.
used to be easy, yeah.
Yeah, we couldn't-
Is her image good?
it's not there yet.
We can move the table.
Well, we can just move. The owl should pick her up.
Yeah, start talking. Yeah, I need to talk.
Lynn, start talking. It grab you. It should grab you. Keep talking.
Yes?
Test 1, 2, 3.
Yep.
Okay, you're good. Go ahead.
This is the seat. Yes, Lynn Princeton, I do the bookkeeping piece of the town stipend that is given to the community center as a whole. This year, we are requesting no change from our funding from last year. We're still saying it's 37,200. We've been able to maintain that largely because of the, in my opinion, the solar panels on top of this roof, although they're all covered in snow from over there, it still has saved us quite a bit of money, including about $4,200 from 23 to 24 cost of electricity. And the heat pumps have saved us quite a bit on oil also. So it's a wonderful thing. It really is. And as you can see, we have forecasted let's see if I can get to it. Okay. Our forecast is for 2025. Does show a shortage of, we anticipate that we will have a shortage of about almost $1,400. I feel we had, for 24, we had an overage of $2,800, I think it was. And we have a policy that if that happens, we take that $2,800 and turn it over to the capital complex fund that we maintain. And I have moved that money over from 24, and we now have about $25,000 in that capital campaign. We have, over the course of the years, always put $1,500 in each year of the stipend. That was requested by, it was requested but not demanded by the original board that we went to, select board that we went to. And we've done that, and that's how we built that over the years. And we've done some things with it. I think we maintained a handicap ramp. We did not do we used some of it when we resided the building with new siding. So we have used some, and it's still continuing to build, and I think that's a good thing. There's probably other projects coming along that we haven't identified yet, so that we'll have to do that. So that's basically why the 37, even though we're short of $3,700, if this budget comes to fruition, we feel that we had such an overage this year that we could take some of that and use it to cover that overage. If none of that happens, we do have a provision in the agreement that we can assess partnership. And they're assessed on, based on the square footage. And we've only had to do that once, I think. We've done this.
Thank you. Hang tight for just a second, so any questions would come back to you through the owl. Any questions from the board? Comments? Liza?
Is there a public copy of that agreement that you've just referenced?
About the partnership agreement? Yeah, I know the town has a copy of it, and we have a copy of it. It's, yeah, I would say so. We all have.
I don't know how to access it. Go ahead.
Carol?
Yeah, so do I understand correctly that the Chebeague Island Community Center has about 30,000 round numbers, in the bank to cover in this, well, 22,000 in the
Yeah.
building fund?
It's about 25 right now, transferred over from 2024 over to Compost Capital Fund, but yes.
And the Chebeague Island Community Center is its own 501(c)(3).
No, it is not.
So I'm a little confused about the entity that we're, entertaining here.
I think that, well, it harkens back to the town, the MOU with the town, which basically says that that we will show you the budgets and all of that stuff, and that you would bring forth a warrant for all of this. But specifically, it says that when the stipend is approved and we can access it, that the library is responsible for the oversight of it.
So, but is this a separate account so this account where you say the complex building fund,
Yeah,
who is assigned to that account?
that's a separate account underneath the library's checking account, basically.
Okay.
So the town, trying to pick up where it actually says that. But that's how I keep track of it. We don't have, we're not a 501c, we're not, it's under the auspices of the library. The library can't use that for anything other than the community center and what's outlined here in the memorandum of understanding.
So what's confusing to me is that the library is submitting their information separately. The council is submitting their information separately, both as 501(c)(3)s. The other party in the three-party memorandum is the Chebeague Island Hall. And you're saying this is not the hall that's applying for this
That's right.
funding?
That's right. According to.
So who is applying for the funding?
What actually happened in the past is the library and the community center were lumped together. And the library has we get $25,000 a year. We haven't, I don't believe we've asked for more, since we became a town, but we might have asked for 1,000 a year. I'd have to go back and look at that. But that was always, that was a whole carryover from Cumberland. Most towns do support their libraries, and the Cumberland had always supported the library to that, at that tune of 25,000. The caveat there was that that money can only be used for wages and salaries at the library.
That's fine, I mean, we'll be
But-
go,
But
Okay.
the reason they got separated is because then the community center, or the complex, I call it the complex, also had monies that came, they would lump it all in together. The 25,000 and the 30,000, $55,000. And people thought that the library was getting $55,000 from the town. Not really. The 25,000 of that was library, and the library could use it. The other was for the maintenance and support and energy and cleaning and groundskeeping and snow removal and all of that. Anything that's shared was really for the community center. So we broke them out so that they were more specific as to what they were for. And people would understand that, no, you're not giving $75,000 to the library, you're giving $25,000 to the library, but you're also giving $50,000 to support this complex. And that's why they're two.
but on the select board side, what you're using as a basis for this contribution, if I understand correctly, is, and instead of board members, you provided us with 2 representatives from each of the advisory board for the MOU. So I guess where I'm having, and then you reference, I think, a separate MOU with the town?
There's an MOU between the library and the town.
Well, so it says here, the funds are used to help support the Chebeague Island Community Center as per the MOU with the town.
Yes. And
Which
there is
MOU is that?
That's the one between the community center and, between the town and the library. Because it does stay in there. And that's why we administer it. It says that the contribution will be applied to the annual staffing cost for the CIO, for the library, and the upkeep and maintenance of the entire community center, including heat, electricity, snow removal. That's where it lists the types of things: janitorial services, basic telephone service, and insurance. Insurance on this building is almost $9,000. So that's where the rules, I guess, that we go by says this is what this is for the community center, and these are the things that the expenses that it covers, and the other piece of it, the typical 25,000 is for wages and salaries at the library.
So does this contribution go into the library account?
It goes into the, yes, it physically sits at that checking account, that savings.
Which is connected?
Within QuickBooks, it's a virtual checkbook, if you will.
I got you.
Underneath it, so that they don't get commingled.
Okay. So I think, not sure who I asked for this, but I think I don't have a copy of that. I don't know if the board's seen a copy of the town, and what you're saying is the library MOU. So that covers the kind of building. And then the other thing is, I understood, so there is an entity which we call the hall, which is called the hall in the MOU, which is the Chebeague Island Hall Community Center, right?
I assume, Sam, that the hall has an MOU with the town for the monies that they're going to have.
No, we don't.
No, we don't.
It's just a line item rental agreement.
Okay.
So that's kind of what I'm trying to explore, is what the relationships are. So I clearly understand the 503C and town relationship with the council, and they provided us with the backup information, and also with the library. But I'm confused about how the Chebeague Island Hall Community Center, is what I understand is the name of the corporation, fits into this agreement, and I don't know of an MOU between the town and that entity. So part of our job is just to understand who we're giving the money to, and what I understand you to say is we're giving it to the library. Is that right?
It's the library, I'm sorry, the library is charged with
Yeah,
administering.
okay. I didn't know that till just now.
Yeah.
So you're saying the library is charged with the management of the building, so to
No,
speak?
administering the town stipend for the management of the building.
And that's something the select board charged the library with?
Yes, no. Okay. You say no, go
So, would one of you like to come up and talk, please?
Yeah, I have the partnership agreement in front of me. The reason the hall doesn't have,
Sam, if you could wait to come up here so you could be on the broadcast. Thank you.
ahead.
And let's make sure she addresses that question.
in 2017, I believe we established a partnership among the three nonprofits that share this building, because it was just getting difficult with mostly volunteers to administer all the various things that we have to do for this building. So the partnership agreement, when we were going over it, at that point, the library, the MOU was with the library for the community center funds, and we discussed whether we should apportion it like a bit per square footage to each of the three nonprofits, and decided that would just be even more confusing. So we left the MOU with the town. It is for the community center. The hall does not include its budget here because we're a line item only for the hall rental. Just, so,
So the hall only exists for the rental of the hall.
our only, yeah, so everything comes, for the partnership agreement, everything comes to the library. The money comes to the library because it was easier to keep it that way. However, the hall owns the building and the land. And the other two nonprofits are legally tenants.
So the hall is asking for this amount of money, $37,200, but the money's really going to the library for the maintenance of the hall.
No.
Could I just, I don't know, but I'm looking at the MOU, and why this is doing this way is it says that the parties agree, and that's the
Which, Lynn, just so I understand, which MOU are you talking about?
the MOU between the library and the town of Chebeague, the board of selectmen of the town.
And what's the date on that?
I think it's 2014, it was signed. But anyway, what it says here is the parties agree that the contribution is transferred to CIL, and the CIL Board of Directors is solely responsible for the dispersals and accounting. That's why we do it in the library.
Yep.
We will do it any which one. That's why it's there now.
So is the Chebeague Island Hall Community Center a 5013C?
Yes, there are three
So I
nonprofits
guess-
in the building.
I guess what I would ask is, could the Chebeague Island Hall Community Center please submit the same information relative to their nonprofit status that we've asked for from all the other entities? And so that would include the 990 Articles of Incorporation. And, I also would like a copy of both the town MOU, we have a copy of, well, I guess we should get both MOUs, because I think it's a little awkward that we have an MOU with the town and the library that's applying to this contribution. I get what you're saying. Then we have this three-party MOU that the town is not a party of, with a nonprofit that we apparently don't have an MOU with, or two maybe, so I just think we need to kind of understand all these interrelationships. So I think the piece that we're missing are at least the two MOUs, and if the council also has an MOU, then that would be good to have. And then the other thing would be the nonprofit status information for the Chebeague Island Hall Community Center.
Okay, I think the Island Council only submitted all its financial things because it actually asked for money during the budget process. The hall did not believe it had to submit those things because we're just a line item for hall rental. We just got a flat fee for hall rental for the year.
Well, I think
our budget is in here. The expenditures that the stipends go to are for the building as a whole.
I'm just gonna repeat my request.
Okay,
Yeah.
In the past, we have set one aside for the select board, but the select board didn't want it. So because we are not asking for monies, the only thing that we ask for is rent for you to be in here. So we have never had to do it before.
Okay.
And I think some of you have been on the board and we've come to you before, and this is the first time that we see that you're asking for this.
This may be the first time, but I guess because I didn't know anything about this third-party agreement until this year. And so I didn't know. I'm sure it existed. I'm sure the library MOU existed, but I didn't know about it. I'm just talking about me personally, not the rest of the board. But because we're making an allocation to a group that's covered by this third-party agreement, you are, in fact, to me, a party of the transaction. So I think just to cover all our bases, it would make sense that all the 501(c)(3)s submit all their documentation, according to the form. I think we may have to sit down with the group and maybe, discuss a more comprehensive MOU, because it's a little odd having one with just the library in the town, but then we're making an allocation to a group that's governed by an MOU that the town has no, stake in, say in.
I understand that. We could, well, at least we didn't, we could have divided it up amongst the three of us.
Right.
And we didn't because of the fact it was an understanding with the town that it would have been easier for the town to see it as a lump sum than to have each of us ask for monies and then give it to the library to oversee it.
Right. I understand how this may be evolved, but given where we are right now, I think it would be a good time to kind of we're sitting here as the board, and this is our fault, not yours, but we don't have all these documents. I think I don't know, but it seems odd to have a third-party agreement that we aren't a party to, but then we're basically providing funds to kind of address that, though I'm a little confused. I need to read the library town agreement because it does sound like, and I get why those costs were split out. It's kind of how we've done it with the rec center and kids place. We did it the same way, so But anyway, I think if you could provide that information, that would help us wrap our heads around it.
I can give it to you right now, the MOU.
Well, it would be better if you could actually email it, then the whole board can get it,
You
and,
get an email. It was blank. I got it, but it was blank. Yeah, I emailed you back, but, yeah.
It was a blank.
so, Glenn, so you can just email that information to Vika, and then she'll get it to the rest of us.
The partnership agreement was, that's just, I guess I have no problem with the town having a copy of that, but it's not.
But we're kind of contributing to the partnership. I'm a little confused about,
Contributing, yeah.
I mean,
We've gotten together and said, this is how we will, these are the things that we need to cover, and we want to keep those two separate, and so, yeah, let's.
Excuse me a second. Excuse me, can we not have sidebar conversations? It's really hard to hear when there's conversations in the crowd. Thank you.
It allows us to do a budget on it, it allows us to pay the bills as they come in instead of, before that, we were doing a reconciliation at the end of the year with the hall, and that was, so what happened really was we paid it all up, the library paid it all up front. And then at the end of the year, we would sit down and say, you know, you owe me this, you owe me that, you owe me something else.
but sorry.
CIHCC has a board of directors.
Yes, they do.
The Chebeague Island Community Center is different than CIHCC?
Yes, the community center is basically the partnership. And that's only because that's what I call it.
So last year, the cover letter for your application was on the letterhead of the CIHCC and listed all the directors, signed by Beverly Johnson. Or maybe that was 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Okay, 2 years ago.
Oh,
So I assumed that CIHCC was getting this $37,200 and using it to maintain the building.
well, you could do that if Beverly wants to, you know, take that over. I have no problems with giving that up.
Well, I'm sure it's because I haven't been here long enough, and even if that was part of our meeting last year, I would have forgotten it by now. But it's very confusing. So in your cover letter, your check sheet, it refers to 2 members of each of the 3 parties, but they're not listed. The names are not listed. And then the financial information, I think, in the report starts off as CICC or CIHCC, I'm not sure which, but then it converts to library for both P&L and balance sheet in this request.
They're separate. There should be separate reports for,
So the library has a whole packet that was given to us.
yes.
And I haven't compared the library balance sheet and P&L in this request, but it's the library's balance sheet and P&L in this request. So that's part of my confusion is for the CICC request, why are we looking at the library's financials?
I believe they're both there.
But we're not giving money to the library here, we're giving money to the CICC.
In this conversation, yes. You
See,
give money to the library.
That's the crux of my confusion, and the list of board members is the list of people on the tri-party agreement,
Right.
which I don't know that we can allocate funds to a tri-party agreement.
But
And
why
that's
you have-
something we'll have to check into. I understand you're saying that it goes to the library, but I guess the public, not just the board, the community needs to know, you know, where the money's going and what it's being used for. That's our obligation. And so this is kind of confusing, even the submittal. So I think it would be helpful to see the 2 MOUs, and if the CICC, is that right, could submit their, well, what I thought it was, what is the official name of that nonprofit?
It's not a nonprofit.
It's not a nonprofit.
Well, what's
It's just
the name of the-
CICC, it's what's on the sign out front.
So the CICC is asking for money, and the CICC is not a nonprofit.
Exactly. So who's the owner of the property? You?
The CIHCC.
So that's the entity, the entity that we need information on is the CIHCC. Sorry, my mistake. Yeah.
So if you want us to have 3 separate MOUs here, there's a problem with we have common areas, common space, so how?
I'm just asking you to submit the
Oh, yeah,
documentation,
we have
and then we'll figure it from there, that's all. Because we really have to understand what entity we're providing the money to, and make sure that it's legal.
Knowing that you were told by earlier select boards to do it this way, but the first thought that comes to mind for me is, are we empowered and are we following the law? And then lastly, are we doing the right thing, giving money to an organization that's not a nonprofit?
But you're actually handing the money over to the library.
But
Then,
that's not who's applying for the money. The application's coming from CICC.
Well, but you want to see, I don't know how you separate 2 of them out unless you make it as
I think-
separate thing.
maybe once we see the MOUs, we'll kind of
Maybe.
understand the structure better, and then we can get,
Because
you
the
know, we can,
partnership is really, it's just an agreement between the 3 organizations of how they're going to spend the money.
okay.
So is a 990 filled out?
No.
So as
It's
a
filled out for the library, which would include that
That
money
money.
that comes in, because it's part of our
Gotcha.
expenses, our account.
Actually, what I wanted to say first was thank you for
Yeah.
so much work.
Yes,
May
indeed.
I just say,
And I haven't even had dinner yet.
so I just want to start with that because I know how much work goes into this. So the CIHCC is a 501c3?
Yes.
Okay. And the money that you receive is through the money that goes to the CICC, correct?
No,
No,
it's the library. The MOU is with the library,
Okay, so hold on.
and
I
the
just
funds get used by the whole.
Which is no change from, I'm sorry, this has been happening, I've been there 18 years, and it's always come through the library,
Okay.
although we've changed.
Brian, you know I'm new,
Yeah, no, I know.
so I'm just trying to follow it.
David knows.
So, so the funds have gone to the CICC.
No.
Funneled
No,
into
Oh,
the
no,
library.
go to the library.
The bills are paid, and, yeah,
So no 990 is filled out on the 501c3 for the CIHCC?
Yes.
It is.
So, well,
That's
they
fine.
were a nonprofit, but the CICC is just the name of the building.
we're the ones that receive the
Could
money.
be named Bob,
Right,
doesn't really
I
matter.
got
Well,
that.
you own the
But there's,
property.
as a 501c3, you don't file?
CIHCC files a 990. CICC is just the name of a building. CICC happens to also be the name of the requester for this $37,000. Therein lies the confusion. The money doesn't go to CICC nor CIHCC, it goes to the library.
Right.
Therein lies more
For
confusion.
for complex expenses. yes.
For complex expenses, but who decides on the expenses?
The MOU tells you exactly.
Yeah, we need to have all that.
Okay, so I just think we need
So we'll
more
know more after
information.
we read the MOUs, yeah.
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 Annual, I'm sorry.
And I have to admit, my confusion was when I have seen this in the past, I thought that this request was coming from CIHCC.
Right.
I thought it was the fee, as a separate request from the council and the library. My assumption, incorrectly, was that it was coming from the hall, as I think of them, so CIHCC. So it wasn't until now that I realized this was different, so.
And I was assuming the same thing, primarily because I looked at last year's folders, and the request signed, the cover letter signed by Beverly, was on CIHCC letterhead with all the board members, Dylan and some other young guys on the board. So be that as it may, one of the requests was that the board members of the requester be listed. And on the check sheet, you wrote 2 members of each of the 3 parties, but those names don't show up anywhere. So we need to have that too.
Yeah, it's
Complicated by
somewhat
history and,
confusing, but it's, I mean, it's just the way it's always been done, so.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'm perfectly happy to have anybody that wants to say,
If you could send the MOUs for your organization, there's no MOU with the building, correct? There's an MOU with the library and the town?
MOU with the library
And then I just have a rental agreement.
Okay, so if you could send those to me and then I'll disperse them to the town. I would normally say town administrator,
All
but
right.
she's a little shorthanded right now. So send those to me if you would and I'll distribute them to the board. That would be great.
Okay.
And I would like to be able to say I'll just grab them from the files at the office, but unfortunately we're not there yet. It's hard to find things on the town's structure in terms of MOU. I tried to find the MOUs 2 days ago and haven't found them yet. So again, town administrator's out for good reason. Maybe she knows exactly where they are, but was not able to find them. So if you could send those along, that'd be great.
And I just wanted to add, thank you for the
Yes.
financial information. It's very easy to follow and very thorough. So, I mean, in terms of the finances, I actually have no concerns. They, you know, I think I can follow your information and I don't see any huge deficits or anything that we need to be concerned about. So I appreciate that, and it's,
I would add that the financial reporting indicates that the money's being well spent, the building's being well cared for, capital improvements are being made that contribute to reducing impact on the environment and reducing expenditures for things like heat and electricity. So thank you for all of that as well.
I thank all of my fellow
Okay.
workers too, because I think we've done a good job. I think that we've tried to plan ahead and save money to do what needs to be done, so that it's not just, oh, I need a new roof, it's $100,000 below the town, however. Hopefully that we can all work on that together.
Great.
thanks.
Any other questions from the board?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, that was easy.
Oh, that clock is wrong, right?
That clock is very wrong. Yes. Apparently did. Next up on the list of folders was Island Commons. You guys, if you could stand up over here and just something, again, we've looked through things, just a brief introduction, and then we can ask questions. 3 minutes, please.
Last summer, the Commons surveyed the Chebeague community about the importance of our service to this island. Perhaps the most telling of the many comments we received was this one. The Commons is woven into the fabric of our island families. Just as this community places a high priority on education to attract and retain young families, the Commons works at the opposite end of that spectrum, ensuring a continuum of care for everyone. In addition to our residential facility, the Commons has grown to provide many other vital services to Chebeague. A Meals on Wheels program, a heavily utilized loan closet for medical equipment, the use of shower facilities for those with disabilities, and of course our popular in-home care program that serves many throughout the year. Our reach in this community goes far beyond our little farmhouse on Littlefield Road. Our request of the town of Chebeague Island this year is for $18,500. To put that number in perspective, $18,500 is what the Commons loses for serving just one main care recipient during a year. Our mission has always been to care for Chebeague's elders, regardless of their means. Since our founding 26 years ago, the Commons has grown to meet the needs of this aging island, providing compassionate care for elders and peace of mind for their families, friends, and neighbors. We ask for support from the town to help us continue this important work. And you'll notice that I have brought Amy and Nancy along to field questions. I'm having a little difficult time hearing folks, so if you want to ask me, I can stand here and try, or whatever works for you.
Okay. All right, thank you, thank you. Eliza?
What percentage of your patients, residents, are main care?
At this point, I think we have two.
Three.
And we are, three, thank you.
3 out of 7. That's
Thank you.
actually a little.
We don't cap main care beds. We're unlike a lot of facilities. We do not have a cap on the number of main care.
And each of those main care costs $18,000 more?
Correct. That's correct.
Then
Because
what
of
you're
the
reimbursed
subsidies from the state don't come close to covering the operating costs.
Do you have a prediction of what's happening with your subsidies with the current funding?
We don't even want to go there. We
Thank
don't.
you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Just to put it in perspective, $5.44 is what they reimburse us for food per day. So you can see where the shortfall kind of comes in.
Sure.
Per main per person.
Go ahead, David.
Well, a simple question. You asked for $10,000 last year and $18,500 this year. What's the source of that increase?
It's rising costs,
It's just
like
simply rising.
like everything, David, and we're seeing, and I don't think I'm misspeaking here, we're seeing an increase in not only wages and operating costs, but also in acuity levels of the residents that we are caring for. So we, instead of sometimes having just one person caring, we may have to have a second person for an exceptional event. The increase is like everything else, it's just stuff is going up. And we have, as you can imagine, an extremely competitive job market out there. So we're trying to keep a quality team by paying for good service.
And this may be best addressed over here, but I'll ask you. So I understand increased costs. If you look at last year's budget versus actual and then look at this year's budget, expenses are up this year by approximately what percent?
Next.
8 to 10.
Okay.
Mostly what we're seeing is the wage inflation,
Right,
just to be able to lure people to come over on that ferry.
right. And that's the kind of number I would have expected. And I'm not trying to be mean here, but you've got several funding sources and you're asking, and we're one of them. You've got donations, you've got other streams of money coming in. This request is 85% up. So it would seem that the town's being asked to cover a lot more of that 8% increase than proportionally across all the other revenue streams that you have.
We would argue, you'll recall that at one point not so long ago, we were getting reimbursed for snow plowing from the town. And we had recently got an increase to 10, for which we were very grateful. We would argue that we are a critical service to this island that enables an awful lot of people to stay on this island.
I absolutely agree.
And would like to be regarded as allows this island to age just as we like to bring in young kids. So I think what we're doing is making the case, asking for an acknowledgement of the role that we play in this town. We deliver meals, we provide in-home care, the loan closet is like a revolving door of people borrowing things and bringing them back. So we really are saying we provide a critical role in this town.
Essentially, there's not tons of other care here. The council helps us. I gotta give a plug to the council all the time. But we are the elder care of the island. I call for wellness checks. I did one today. It's open 24 hours, we don't close. If we go down to 2 residents, we still have the same staff because I'm too scared to lose them. When somebody gets out of the hospital, so we're there. I mean, these are some of the reasons. And $60,000 is what we spend monthly on payroll, and nobody's making a lot of money.
I understand all that, and I fully support and appreciate the role that the Commons plays in the community. I think it's of strategic significance right up there with our need to invest in getting young people out here.
Yep, yeah.
By having a place for people to stay on the island when they age out of their current homes, that allows families to maintain continuity, and that's part of building the fabric of the community. But as I'm trying to represent a taxpayer here, how do you answer the taxpayer who says your expenses are up 8%, but you want the taxpayer's contribution to go up by 85%?
And I would say, first off, that since COVID, our expenses over the last 5 years, from 2020 to 2025, have skyrocketed. So while we're asking for more this year, it's to try to compensate for that, because our fundraising burden has really become a difficult one to bear, and we can only ask for so many donations. We've done great, and you know, had some unexpected windfalls that went to our sustainability fund, which eventually will begin to help us to close that gap. But
That's the hope.
that's the hope. But at this moment, we really are struggling to raise the difference between what we can't do anything about our main care rate. We can only raise our private pay rates so much, and what happens is the people just generally burn through that money just faster. It doesn't necessarily solve the problem.
We see serious trouble on the horizon, as does everybody in this room, of what's gonna happen. And we are dependent on main care. And what's gonna happen with that, I don't know.
Understood. David?
Another question. If you can you give us some history over the town's donation to the Commons over the past, let's say, 3 or 4 years? What's happened since 2020, let's say?
I can't remember the exact year, but I think it was about 3 years ago that Carol had made a motion and Jen had, Valeska had seconded to significantly increase the town's contribution to 10.
It was in 2023.
Yes, I think the last couple of years it's been flat.
2023 was 3,000, 2024 was 10,000.
2023 was for 2 years because they failed to disperse the prior year to us.
Right, but the budgetary amount was 3,000. What, I'm confirming what she
It
said.
was 1,500 for the plowing that you guys all allotted us, and then I forgot, so they doubled it to the 3.
Right.
And then you're right, the 10,000 to 10,000.
Yeah.
And just in terms of David's question about the trend over time, and then it's been flat for a couple of years at 10,000.
Yeah.
Eliza?
How many people receive Meals on Wheels and are clients of Chebeague Cares? So in addition to the residents, how wide is the net for those other services?
We have about 10 in-home care clients. And
That goes up in the summer.
yeah.
That's in-home, that's
That should be
Chebeague
cares,
Chebeague
correct.
Cares, which is
Okay.
under Island Commons.
Yeah.
State 501c3,
Yeah.
and that will go up to about 15 to 17.
It's a popular
Come
time
May.
this summer.
And we do, we do no more than
We've had as high as 10.
We've had 10 meals, but we have a pretty steady 8 meals. And I gotta give a plug to the church too, because they do the delivery, they all help deliver the meals too. So it's a real community effort on that.
We can only cook so many meals out in that kitchen.
Well,
so
if we do 10 meals, I have 7 residents in the staff, because there's no stores open, I have to feed them too for lunch, because it's a 13-hour shift. So we are turning out about 23 meals on
On a
that day.
Tuesday, at midday, yeah. It's busy.
Does any of that service go to the town of Long Island? Or Chebeague Cares and Meals on Wheels or?
We have one Long Island resident that I have hired a Long Island worker, so it's cost effective. And they do we have one person over there right now. We had 2, but that gentleman did move into my home, or not my home. I think it's my home after this time. Our home,
Your home, the common.
the common.
Yeah.
The home on the
You got some
island,
mixed
yeah.
up.
That home, yeah.
It's a good thing.
Carol?
Yeah, just for kind of the lay person here, I know it's a complicated thing, but can you just explain, I know main care, it's like Medicare and other things, it won't pay the actual cost. So for you operating, I guess what I would be interested in is what is the deficit that you have at the,
Yep.
on an annual basis?
About 100 grand at
Okay.
least, yep. About 100 grand at least to be nice.
I mean,
But the easiest way, without getting into a jumble of numbers,
Right.
we've upped our prices for private pay. It's almost what the market can bear, to be honest, at this second. And our lowest price is $245,
$249.
$249 a day. So if you had private funds, you'd be spending $249. The state sets our rate based on evaluations that we have to send in every 6 months, because we have to document every bit of care that we do, every bit of toileting, anything we do, we document and we're audited. And then they set the rate based on our acuity. And right now, because our acuity is really high, it's the best main care rate we've had, and it's $206 per day.
Mhm.
So it's our best main care rate because it's the highest, and they're giving us $206 per that person per day. So you can just kind of see already where that shortfall kind of comes in, but it's about 100 grand, I'd say,
Yeah.
give or take.
Acuity is level of care.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what has happened is, as Susan mentioned, the level of acuity has gone up and up and up. However, if we lose, we have a couple of people with really high care needs right now. If we lose one of them and get someone in who's more independent, our rate goes way down.
But your
And
costs don't.
we still have to carry the same staff to take care of the same number, you know what I mean?
Right.
So we can never drop below that 1 overnight staff and 1 during the day and the cook cleaner.
It's a tricky game, and I'm a taxpayer, and I understand it's not typically something that you would be reaching out for others to do, but we're anything far from, we're unique a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, and I probably should have prefaced the meeting by pointing out the challenge of this year.
Okay.
The amount of infrastructure challenges that we're faced with relative to climate change is staggering. We've had meetings where 3/4 of our agenda items were about damage from climate change, just on the town side, much less on the taxpayer side. And that was already going to be a challenge until January 20th, or the next day, when we learned that anything that includes the word climate or change or equity or inclusion is getting chopped from the budget. So it's a tough budget year, and not trying to be mean with these questions, just trying to figure out how to thread that needle. It's going to be a tough budget year.
No, we understand
I
that,
appreciate it.
we appreciate
I
it.
do,
It's a tough call, we're
Yeah,
all scrambling for money at this point.
yeah. So, any other questions from the board, further comments?
Thank you.
And I'd like to add, when we're looking at our budget for managing the town with wages going up for town employees, which I applaud, and knowing that you need to do the same, which we all applaud. it's a shared burden for everyone, but we are concerned about the budget going up with so much uncertainty coming down the pipe. So,
That's how we feel too.
we're in the same boat.
Thank you for the presentation, and thank you for what you guys do.
Thank you.
Next up on that list would be the council. Anybody here from the council? Nobody here from the council. Okay, we have a submission, so we're good with that. Next up would be Kids Place. And before you, well, go ahead and do your presentation, and then I have something I need to say. I'll go ahead and say it now. I don't want it to be a tease. So it occurred to me, so we're in a workshop. We're not voting tonight. We're not making decisions, and yet the language, the laws for the state of Maine, and then the language within the select board ordinance refers to conflict of interest in several different ways. The primary is obviously financial conflict of interest, so I shouldn't vote on anything that's going to put money in my pocket. But it goes on to familial relationships and then the appearance of conflict of interest. And so, to the board, full disclosure, my wife is now a member of the Recreation Center Board and the Kids Place Committee. I would like to hope I can be even-handed and open-minded about it, and she does not get paid. Well, I can't even say that. There are times when she fills in as a substitute at Kids Place and gets paid. Do I need, the board could decide to recuse me. I'm gonna choose not to recuse myself unless the board says, yes, Bob, you should shut up. Or recuse yourself, whichever you prefer.
Well, no,
Yes.
just kidding.
Yeah, A, B, or all the above, yeah.
I think recuse is important, but does that mean you can't ask questions or have input?
Yeah,
Or-
that's what it would.
It does, yes.
does.
That's what recusal means, yeah. And I misspoke when Richard and I were talking about this earlier. Carol?
This is a workshop where we're gathering information. I don't see personally Bob's relationship, or either Richard's, to say the same, with the entities being a problem in sort of the questioning, fact-finding mission. When it comes to making, maybe taking a vote, if they feel conflicted, then we should consider it.
I would agree.
That's where
That makes sense to you?
Yep, thank you.
David, that worked for you?
Indeed.
Good?
Spoke for me, yeah.
Okay, all right, so, sorry, I want to get that out there.
Hello. Let's see, it's a pleasure to follow the comments because they so accurately and thoroughly describe the challenges that Kids Place is also experiencing. And so that you all know, Kids Place has grown significantly in the last year and a half, 2 years. We're now within 5 days a week. The hours are 7:30 to 4:30. We've served, last year I think we had 9 students. This year we have 7, and then others that pop in more in the summer. We have strengthened our partnerships with the school and others in the community, and we have stabilized the program. So Kids Place is now open without fear of closure because of a staff person not able to be there. And we've been able to do that because we have increased the staff pay, much deserved, but, and still, embarrassingly low. I wish it could be much higher. And we've also obviously, dealt with the other same increases across the board in price of everything. I'll add that our transportation costs were about $10,000 this year for our teachers coming from the mainland for just parking and boat tickets. That's a significant cost that other organizations on the mainland don't have to face. Similarly, on Chebeague, we don't have the critical mass as all the other nonprofits have to deal with as well. So you have to run an organization differently, and you have to look for other forms of support when you don't have your full roster of kids in there at all times. So we are not increasing our ask this year. We're grateful for any support that the town is able and willing to give us. We continue to grow the quality of our program. We're trying to recruit students from the mainland, and we're also, as you can see from our financials, doing more private fundraising to try to cover the increasing deficit between what tuition pays and what we are paying our teachers essentially. Those are our two biggest expense income. So I guess that's the short version, but I do think that Kids Place is really vital to our community, and we will not be able to maintain a year-round community if we're not able to have young families living here with the possibility of early childhood education. We are also looking into strategic partnerships with the school in terms of as they increase their number of tuition students from the mainland. We've also had younger members of those families to our Kids Place that would potentially come to the school for preschool and then go to Kids Place in the afternoon. And we've tried to think about some creative financial planning around that. So we're doing everything that we can to strengthen Kids Place, not only in numbers, but quality. It's about our teachers, having excellent teachers there, making sure that the children have the best care that they can possibly have. And, you know, they're our youngest, so just as important as our oldest. And everyone in between.
Thank you. Questions, comments from the board? Carol?
So you're asking for the same allocation as last year, and I guess, this is kind of getting into the weeds, but when I didn't really follow the budget versus actual that you provided. So there was a 2023 actual, then there's the 24, and when it came to the town's allocation, it said 25,000 for Kids Place.
Yes, that was because our fiscal year is January 1st to December 31st. So we, in the first half of last year, we received 10,000 of the 20,000 that we had been allocated from the town for the town's fiscal year. And then last June, the town approved an increase to 30,000 a year for Kids Place, which meant that we got half of that, the 15,000 in the fall from the town, as it's paid out in two separate payments. So that made 25,000. So it's 10 from the 20,000 that was promised the first year and 15 from the 30 promised in the second.
And then so my understanding is the state's been providing a subsidy for childcare providers. And so my understanding is that's probably not going to continue. Is that what
Likely not.
So how much do you receive and how is that going to impact you?
Yeah, absolutely. We have, as of right now, we haven't gotten any notice that it's definitely ending with state funding. Essentially what that is a wage supplement, and it's very clear that we are not allowed to lower what we're paying teachers hourly. This is on top of their hourly wage. And they have audited us and checked in to make sure that, so that 10,000 that's coming in from the state, which is essentially paying the teachers 300, depending on where their rating is. Sorry, this is getting confusing, but the state of Maine has a program that essentially rates teachers based on their education, their experience.
These are people at Kids Place, are they teachers?
Teachers. So teachers, you know, so one of our teachers has a bachelor's degree in early childhood education, so he scores higher up on that rating than another one of our teachers that doesn't have that degree but has lots of experience. So he gets a higher wage supplement every month, and it's paid out in each paycheck, you know, split in each paycheck, which is 2 times a month. And then, so essentially that is just on top of their wage. So if that goes away, their wages won't drop at all. Their wages will be the same. They just won't get that benefit supplement. So that money just really comes in and goes out. It's not.
Right, but I mean, how much is it that comes in or came in last, you know, in the last fiscal year? Or last calendar year?
Yeah,
I couldn't really tell. Was it 20? It looked like 20,000.
So it's 10,000 for a Kids Place, and then we got 10,000 from the state for the rec center for the water filtration system, or for one of the, I wasn't here for that, but one of the
The
water
sanitation,
processing.
the sanitation one, not the PFAS one.
Yes, the sanitation one. So, yeah, it was about 10,000 but the year prior, it was higher, and it went further. So I think Kids Place got more like 18,000 as a result of the state funding in that year, but then they changed the program, and we got around almost 10,000 this year.
So you don't think that will negatively impact your ability to retain your staff?
I guess we'll see. I hope not. We are continuously, offering folks additional support as they move up in their responsibilities. We offer a lot of educational opportunities, and we've been continuously providing growth for them within the organization so that, we're doing the best we can to make them feel appreciated and paid something that's high for actually the profession, considering compared to the other similar programs in the area.
And I thought that I understood you were providing healthcare coverage, but the numbers seem kind of low in the budget, so are you supplying healthcare coverage?
Yeah, so the way, so the rec center used to have, I think, Anthem, and they paid out their employees through their own private health insurance program. 2 years ago, we got a grant from the Recompense Fund for health insurance, and they got involved with our program and supplied us with a consultant that suggested we switch to having an HSA payout program. So essentially what we do is our employees purchase their own health insurance off the marketplace, and we reimburse them. We pay them. Last year it was $1,500 per person for the year. This year it's going to be $2,000, and it's paid out quarterly to the employees. And so that goes directly into an HSA account that they can pay their medical bills out of. So that's
Or their premium.
Yeah. Well, I don't think you're actually technically allowed to pay your premiums.
Yeah, you can't pay your
But a lot of them have very, very low premiums. It's more about the deductibles being higher,
Because of
everything. And so it's definitely an additional benefit, the kind of the best we can do, and what was suggested to us by folks that know more about health insurance than I do.
David?
What's the amount of your request again?
30,000.
30,000, okay. I'm a little confused between, this is almost like our last. I'm looking at the request for Kids Place request, Chebeague Recreation Center and Kids Place request, and I'm trying to understand what's the Kids Place,
Yeah.
what's the Recreation Center, and how many requests are we looking at, 2 or 3?
Thank you for asking that question. This is an excellent opportunity to kind of explain to the community that in the last year, the rec center has changed the bylaws to create a separate division for Kids Place. It's still under the 501c3 of the rec center technically, but it has its own bank account. It has its own operating bank account and capital account separate from the rec centers. There's been a financial separation. It has its own committee that oversees Kids Place, and then the rec center is its own the rec department is its own operating division separate from the Kids Place. So we're making 2 requests, one for Kids Place for 30,000, which would go directly into the Kids Place bank accounts, and then the next one I'm assuming we're going to talk about is for the rec center that would go into the rec center's operating accounts. Yeah.
And could you just give us, I know that staff turnover was a big challenge, the length of time your employees have been here now?
Yep. We have 2 full-time employees and 2 part-time employees. The 2 full-time employees have both been here well over a year, which is, for those of you that aren't familiar with this profession, that's pretty rare. It's the turnover is usually about a year, and in Kids Place experience, that's what it's been, not across the board, but pretty consistently. And then one of the part-time employees has been here helping us out well over a year as well. And then the other part-time employee just started with us in the fall. So,
Thank you.
Other questions? Thanks, Dave. And the children say thank you too. Okay, rec center.
Okay, we have to ask for an increase this year. I hate to do it, but it's just critical and I want to explain. Last year it was brought to our attention that because we were getting $8,000 from the school, which had begun back when we split off from Cumberland, we couldn't be doing that, getting taxpayer dollars from the school and getting taxpayer dollars from the town. So we told the school, okay, no more in your budget would you be paying the rec center $8,000. However, we really needed that in our budget. We continue to need that in our budget. We do offer 4 days a week after school for the children. It was previously 2 days a week. We also now have a recreation director providing that care, which gives a lot of continuity. He's developed relationships with the parents. He's developed relationships with the teachers for curriculum, involvement into the after-school program. It has been a lot of a plus for working families to offer that. And so we have a paid person now instead of a group of fractured volunteers offering after school. In addition, we have clarified our MOU that when we take care of volunteer field, which the school uses, which the rec uses, which the town uses as town land, we had been previously billing the town. We will now be paying for that, but we need help to cover those expenses, and we did get a bid for $3,500. So of the $8,000 we lost and the $3,500 that we need for just the volunteer field agreement, that right there is over $10,000. In addition, I just want to bring up that capital improvements are needed. The rec center is now in its 27th year. We had to get a new roof last year to the cost of $64,000, I think it was. We had to get a PFAS filter that cost us about $10,000. We have received bids to get a generator so that we don't close during power outages. In fact, we could serve as another place that people could come, have a warm place to stay, have a shower, get food, charge their phones, if we could get a generator. We have to repair our sprinkler system because of a problem with a cracked pipe to the pool. So these are just some of the capital improvements we'll need. The teen center, which was open only sporadically or for a couple of hours a month, is now consistently open every Friday from 7 to 10 with paid staff to cover the needs of teens, all of whom have experience working with teens. We offer free membership to, not free full membership, but free partial membership for the fire and rescue staff to access the fitness room and stay in shape. And we now have 2 people in the front office on the payroll, 2 full-time equivalents instead of previously 1. So we have a lot of costs, and we just want to share with you that we've really tried to pare it down to 10, although I know that sounds like a huge increase to ask for. When you look at what we gave up from the school and what we're needing to provide, I'm happy to take questions about why we're asking for this increase.
Thanks. Questions from the board, comments?
I know that the services being provided to the community have really increased in the past year. Can you give us any information on that, how that compares to
The past years. So not only has the after-school program gone from 2 days up to 4 days a week, but we now consistently offer crafts. We consistently offer family nights where there might be spaghetti or potluck or tacos. We offer games. We offer events for families. We have the Chili Chowder Challenge. Well, I guess that hasn't changed. But we have more events for seniors. We've got dessert and discussion on one afternoon a month. We've got mahjong going on. We have pickleball. We have cribbage tournaments. We have
Bill's amazing fitness program, there's 4 evenings a week. Pretty much all the time available.
Working moms pretty much get off the boat and come and have a workout
And
session.
many others.
Yeah,
We
Amy can
figure,
speak to
I
that.
did, it's there every day, from
Yep.
5:30 to 7, it's great.
And we have yoga.
and we've been tracking sign-ins, which is only a percentage of the people that actually use the building. But we figure it's increased by 200%. Was that
This month was over 200%, last month was over 100%
compared to the same month the year prior?
year to year.
Yeah, we really learned in the pandemic how isolation at home can be really bad for your health. So I think that's really important, and it's been certainly in the medical literature how, social connectedness is really part of blood pressure being better, vascular risk factors being better. So, we are trying to get people together, offer more opportunities, encourage people to come in for senior workouts, age 2, aging bodies.
And summer camps.
And summer camps and aquasize in the summer too is great for giving hot water to work out with buoyancy of the water for people with arthritic joints.
Yeah.
So we're really caring for the whole age span and many more days a week.
Other comments?
Thank you.
Carol? Carol?
Yeah, I was trying to find, I think in your letter, you talk about capital costs, and I see that you have, it looks like about 800,000 and, sort of cash, cash and investments, but is there a capital fund on this balance sheet?
I don't think it's
I mean, do you have a
on the
capital
balance sheet.
reserve account?
We do have a capital reserve, we have a capital account, and we have an investment reserve account, which I guess you could call a sustainability fund. We're trying to increase both of those with donations and fundraisers and whatnot. We pretty much emptied out our capital account when we painted the gym for $30,000 and put a new roof on for $64,000. And so now we're,
I believe it
put some of
was,
it into a CD and keep that out.
yeah, it was about $75,000 as of this summer in the capital account. And then we put that into a CD to try to gain some, we knew that we had capital expenses coming up and we wanted to try to make some money off of that money, so we put it into a CD. Recently took it out, did 4,000 or something like that. But then essentially all of that went to the roof. And so we have a number of other things just because of the natural age of the building, and folks that were on the board of the rec center previously did try to plan for the future, did try to build this account, and that's part of what the investment fund is. And I don't think anyone anticipated what costs would be of, some of the work that we're gonna have done, so that, some of what's in that fund will go to that.
But back to Carol's question, do you have financial assets that are not on the balance sheet?
I don't think so.
And do you, I guess that was my
The statement
question.
of
You have a
financial statement should have everything on it.
And I guess the other question was, and maybe it's in the 990 or something, but, you have substantial investments which are probably generating some income.
Yeah,
So
so we
where
need
does,
that to balance our budget.
where does that show up?
That should be in there. I don't have that.
Yeah, I don't have the, like a statement of activity,
Yeah.
dated the 21st, I don't think I have that.
I'd be happy to follow up with that number.
Yeah, so I
Put it
guess
out
that,
on that sheet.
and I think it would be helpful to sort of understand, I mean, because I don't even see the capital expenditure for this year, maybe it's in here, but
For
it's,
the roof,
yeah, where,
that's because it was done right at the end of the year, so it wouldn't show up for 2024, because we actually paid it in 2025.
Yeah, they did the work to like December 27th.
Yeah, and sent us the bill in 2025.
I guess, given your letter about capital, I couldn't find anything either as a reserve account or an expenditure relative to
We'd
capital.
be happy to send you
Yeah,
that.
that would be good to know, I think.
Well, but if you go back to what the town has asked for historically, it's a P&L for prior year budget versus actual, and a P&L for the forecast for your current next year, and also a balance sheet. What you've given us is a financial statement, and I know you guys have done a lot of work on how you record your financials and all,
Yeah,
but
so you need a balance sheet.
In addition to this. Yeah.
I mean, it may be in here, and I just don't know where it
well,
is.
it didn't make it into the packet of information that was given to us.
Yeah.
So a balance sheet and
Yeah.
a P&L for the prior year budget versus actual and the current year.
Yeah.
And it's the same numbers as what is in this statement of financial
Yeah.
position, but for those of us who are not accountants, just balance sheet and
Yeah.
profit and loss are pretty easy to read. So if you could get those to us, that'd be great.
Great,
Yeah.
sure thing.
Okay, thanks. Other questions from the board? Carol?
Not a question, just a comment. I would agree that I think the rec center's really stepped it up, and I think there's a lot of programs and people are using it a lot, and so kudos to you guys, because I think we had, post-pandemic, it was a little, there was some concerns about kind of what was being offered to the community, so good, I think you've done a great job, and I think Kids Place is essential to the island sustainability, so I think you've made great strides. I do worry about relying on a lot of donations to kind of survive. And then the other thing is, I think, the funding picture may get more challenging going forward, so.
And Eliza, you had something?
Yes, and this is a comment to the other organizations, your MOU that you provided to the town for this year, it was a good model to follow. It was really clear about this is the services that will be provided. So I would suggest to other organizations to take a look at the MOU that was provided as a good model to follow.
And the last thing is, like we've done in the past, we would have one allocation out in the warrant articles for Kids Place and one for the rec center.
I know that can get confusing with one 501c3 and two divisions, but I appreciate it very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. All right, and library. Again, try to keep the comments to something like 3 minutes, and then we'll have questions, comments.
Hello.
Hi.
Just wanted to take a moment to speak about the library and the fact that it does serve as a vital hub for the community. We do consider it a third space, which is a reference to a social environment that is distinct from the home and the workplace. It offers a neutral ground where people can gather to connect and engage in community activities. So in that spirit, the library has worked hard to provide our community with a wonderful place, not only to come in and experience books, but also we've worked hard with the other nonprofit organizations to provide things to the community beyond books. We do have our book club. We have a monthly poetry group. We provide a weekly story time. We do the school program for the Chebeague Island School and work closely with the Historical Society and the Rec Center, as well as our partners in the Community Center and beyond. So we're really pleased to do that. We have celebrated the community in other ways as well, and we do have our phone book, the library directory, which is a fundraiser that we put out every 2 years, but it also does provide a wonderful service to the community to keep people connected in a real meaningful way. And we also have worked to enhance our relationship with the island teenagers, and we look forward to providing additional services to the Commons as well in the future. So.
Thank you. Comments, questions from the board?
Okay, my new thing that I geek out about being on the select board is the importance of our comprehensive plan, which does need to be updated. We're in the process of that, but looking at what are the things that need to happen in this community for successful futures, and I can see how all of the organizations here fit in with that, and but especially I think with the library, with providing support with businesses and people that are now working from home with broadband. So I can see the value of all of the services that are happening here, so thank you for that.
We look forward to, enhancing meals as well.
Other comments, questions from the board? Richard?
No.
Oh, okay. You were gonna say something? Going once, going twice? Carol?
Well, I guess if it's not inappropriate, I'd like to have an update on the building project.
Would I prefer to have someone else?
Okay with that?
Sure, yeah.
So we do have, short time ago applied for $100,000 from the State Library Association through ARPA funds and received that to put an addition on the library for remote workspace, which was the kind of the impetus for that grant. We've been working on that for about a year and a half. We have what we think is a good design. Beth and Will Hopkins have been leading the building committee to get a sketch from an architect, planning with the rest of the community center to put the addition on. And I think we're making progress. Let me ask Beth, do you want to talk about the kind of the project? And then I have a couple other things to say, but I'm going to talk about the project itself, where we are right now.
Sure, yeah, so I think we have maybe talked about this a little bit, or at least with people in different venues, but, the project is a 3-year grant, and the first year was dedicated for community needs assessments. We spent a lot of time talking to the community about, do we need this, and if so, what should it look like? So we've done 2 surveys and some listening session, drop-in focus groups, and then just, talking to individuals in the community. And the community told us that yes, we need it, and if you build it, we will use it. And then we got some very specific information around what kind of space they needed. So the original grant application was kind of like thinking it would be a small, one big space with movable walls, trying to keep it really affordable. But that community told us that they really wanted private workspaces, and that became clear from COVID that so many people were Zooming, that, they needed privacy to have those kinds of meetings. And we don't envision this just to be for a remote workspace. We also, that's the grant and that's where the money was, but we understand that people might use it for telehealth, for, for counseling, or just talking with their families, or, whatever else, and just for a private place to, to study, to think, to do a project. So, so then when we learned that we really needed some private spaces, that requires more room, more square footage, basically. So the design got a little larger, and we settled on one that's about 700 square feet. The architect that we hired is the same architect that designed the original addition to this building. And she was kind of thrilled to kind of, circle around, sort of, that was the beginning of her career, and now it's towards the end of the career. She designed a beautiful space. We worked with our partners to try to get feedback on what was important to them for, some of the parameters around that space. One of the things that happened was she designed it 5 feet into the setback for the building itself, and then we were hoping to have a deck, and that was going to put it another 12 feet. The architect, having done the original building, which is much closer to the road, said, well, that wasn't a problem, so I don't see why this would be a problem. So it turns out it has been a problem, and we haven't been able to move forward with that design. We recently came to the conclusion that if we want to have this happen in the time frame that we would like to do it in, that we will modify the design. We have to redesign and push it back and drop the deck. So it's not ideal, but that's where we are, and that's the proposal that we've made to our partners. We're hoping that they'll approve that so we can move forward, and that's just all as of like yesterday.
I'll add to that. this has been a big learning curve for me in trying to understand this complex partnership. And, you know, I work at the university and I always tell people 50 years ago, the university didn't decide this is the optimal place that we want to end up 50 years from now, because it's really it's a really complicated bureaucracy. And I feel a little bit like this here now too. Like, is this really the optimal arrangement that we want? I really believe that all the partners are doing their best to represent the needs of their organizations. And the arrangement that we have together, I think we fight that sometimes. So that structural arrangement has, I think, provided some challenges for us. And I would wonder if this is the best arrangement for all parties, and if there's maybe a way of doing things a little better that could support everybody in a different kind of way. So I appreciate the questions about the partnership, and I still feel like I'm learning new things about this partnership. And appreciate that it's, everybody has perspectives that they're trying to maintain to keep the intent of their particular pieces of the community center intact and healthy.
Thanks. Quick, Carol.
Just one follow-up question. What's the total cost of the building project and where is the money coming from? Because does the grant cover it completely?
No. It's probably gonna fall in the $300,000 range, and we have a $100,000 grant. We also got a small recompense grant to help offset the cost for the engineering and architecture. But we have some money already set aside within the library budget to cover a chunk of the rest, and then we may do a little bit of fundraising to finish.
Okay.
Do you have an estimate of if there's having to be a redesign, how much extra will be spent on a redesign?
Yeah, not very much, thanks to the expertise that's on our board. And I feel very, very lucky that Will Hopkins and Beth Dyer, who are an architect and a professional librarian, have worked with Corey, who's the best director we could possibly imagine. And that expertise together has just been amazing. So if we have to redesign, Will has offered to do that. And we keep prodding him to make sure that that is actually something that he can do, but feel very, very lucky with the expertise that we have around this. That was one of our concerns.
Once again, when I see the growth that's needed in this community, and especially when it comes to what do people need now compared to what was needed in the past, and supporting business opportunities, I see this as a really important value for the future of the community, and also how libraries serve communities in very different ways, and that the library's been involved. And so it was nice to see the grant and the idea and the support in the community for that. So thank you for that.
Other questions, comments? Thank you very much. Appreciate it. So left on the list, just from the budget accounts, would be Life Flight. I don't think there's anybody here from Life Flight today. And Visiting Nurse. Anybody here from Visiting Nurse? Okay. All right. I think that concludes the workshop. Before we officially adjourn, I would like to bring one thing up. I was going through and this doesn't involve the public, so you can listen if you want, but
Go have dinner.
yeah, go eat. Yes, we should all go eat. April 12th, I believe it is. We have a budget meeting scheduled, and as I was going through the
what day of the week is that?
that's on a
Wednesday? Yeah.
April, must not be April 12th. It is
16 or 9?
April 9, thank you. It's April 9, fourth draft of budget. And as I was going through and putting dates on, I realized I'm not here then. I have a trip My children are taking me to New Orleans for my 70th birthday celebration for Bridgewater Fest, and the tickets are already bought. So, hotel's bought, they've made their arrangements. I can change arrangements, but they can't. So I'm not gonna be here on April 9th. We could move it if we wanted to, or we can leave it as is.
I would like to not be able to be here either, because of the travel plan, but I'm modifying it to be here. So if we can
Okay.
change it, I would be happy for that. But otherwise, I'll stay here, but.
So I think, if you, so you're saying you would like to move it?
Yeah.
So I would suggest you and Bob come up with some alternatives, and based on it, I don't think we should do it tonight. I think you should compare your schedules and come up with some options. That's what I would recommend.
And we'll also check in with Vika as well. to
Right,
make sure it makes
exactly.
sense.
And what is it? I mean,
Well, you guys can figure it
there's a
out.
time, I mean, how much time do we have?
I'm gonna suggest that we talk to Vika first. My
Right.
proposal would be to move it to the prior
And
Saturday.
if we can't move it, I'll just
Yeah.
take the trip.
The prior Saturday.
The
Yeah,
prior
that-
Saturday would be the 5th
Yeah, it'd be
of
fine
April.
with me.
I'm not sure I would want to move it to a weekend.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Right, because it's not on a weekend now?
It's not on a weekend now,
Yeah.
but it's successive Wednesday nights.
Okay.
There's a board of selectmen
But I'd
meeting on
rather
Saturday.
do it like a Thursday, Wednesday, Thursday or something.
Okay, all right.
I just rather not tie up a weekend, because I don't get them very often.
Okay, well, okay.
I'm just.
And it's spring by then, and we'll all be out sniffing the flowers and all that.
So I would be fine with another time during the week. and-
Okay.
The 16th is actually during April vacation week, and I was like this close to getting tickets to go see Tim that week, so I'll hold off.
Well, no, I mean, I
So,
think you guys
Get your
can all,
dates and I'll know.
I think you guys can all convene and come up
Yeah.
with a new, I would suggest that, do we have a meeting next Wednesday?
I don't think we do.
Oh, I thought we did, okay.
Wait, yes.
Oh, yep, board of selectmen meeting next
Yeah, select board.
Wednesday.
That's a regular
It's a
meeting.
regular meeting, yep.
So I would suggest come back with the game plan at the next meeting. David and I, we have boring lives, we're around.
Period.
But the rest of you, if you have travel plans, including April 16th, then work on it.
Yep, perfect.
I would prefer not to do weekends in the spring, into April.
Yeah, just when the weather's.
We have a meeting March 5th.
Yeah, that's
But
next
we
week.
need to work it into Vika's process as well, so
Right.
that the pace of how she has information, if we move it too much earlier from where we had it, it won't stack up properly. But
I would-
Carol's suggestion is
And if we have to double up later on, that's fine,
we can do that too. Yeah.
because we often have to anyway, and we may not know everything till then, so it would be better to go that direction. And then the meeting, we have a regular meeting on the 5th of next week?
Yep.
Is that right?
Yeah, next week,
Okay.
yep, that's next week.
All right, and do we have I mean, I think I can ask this question, do we have an update on when Vika might be back? And I haven't talked to her directly, I've texted
I
her.
spoke with her today. She, as of 4 o'clock, was trying to figure out how she could come tonight and was struggling.
Are we on, are we still?
We're turned off, right?
Oh, yeah.
No.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, okay, good.